Hey there. Okay, well, a couple of days ago, I tweeted a picture out of another weird tube in my collection, the Westinghouse WX3506 Matchbook tube. And it generated quite a bit of interest. And yes, if you want to follow me on Twitter, I am Uniservo on Twitter, just like I am here on YouTube. I do tweet pictures of things every so often, and you also get notifications for videos because YouTube doesn't do a very good job of that. Anyway, so I dug this tube out, and it generated interest. So why not do a more in-depth look at it with video? So here we go. Here's the box, Westinghouse Reliatron. Let's take it out. The flap is gone. But it is the original box because you see it has a custom-made insert for the tube. Let's take it out. Cut to the chase and take it out. Here we go. This is the WX3506. Get my other hand out of there. Matchbook tube. Sorry for the crummy lighting. All right. Kind of a weird thing. Take a good look. Okay, this interesting device is an experimental tube. It's a bit of a dead end because, well, they did not work out as well as Westinghouse wanted them to. And the number here, and we can see it does have some printing on it. There we have, the Reliatron and Westinghouse WX. There we go. 3506. WX more or less stands for Westinghouse Experimental, if you will. WX was a prefix they put onto all sorts of lab animals, experimental tubes, and also special orders. If you actually dig through my past videos, way back I did a video on a very weird Westinghouse CRT that had this thing in the front that also had a WX number. And actually most tube manufacturers did have some sort of prefix. Let me just get that out of the way, otherwise it's going to confuse the camera. Most tube manufacturers did have special prefixes for developmental types and experimental and perhaps special run. Well, Westinghouse used WX. I guess that made sense. So yes, 3506, there's probably no real meaning to 3506. Probably meant that it's the 3,506th interesting design they did or something. I don't know. And yeah, some of those experimental or preliminary numbers, if you will, do turn into actual real numbers. If this were to become a production device, it did not. Come on, focus. If this actually ever did become a production device, which it did not, yeah, it would have been given a real number. Anyway, WX3506. Early 50s design, it was an attempt to make a low-cost, ruggedized, cheap tube. And, well, didn't do a particularly good job of that. But hey, you gotta try. I've heard through some discussions with other tube collectors and such like that about 500 of these were made. Now, interesting story in that the way I got this. Well, a friend and I went to a North New Jersey Hamfest. It was pretty far up there. Not as far as like the Port Jervis area, but it was pretty far up there. And yeah, it was a little remote, and they must have cleaned out some ham radio estate or something, because there were just boxes and boxes of boxed tubes, all unsorted and everywhere, but cartons, bankers' boxes full of tubes. Well, we had to go and do our due diligence, check it out, and we did, and there were a few other radio people there because the word got out, and in one of the boxes were a bunch of these in the new boxes. Yeah, this box is a little ratty. We found, I think, 7 or 8 of these things. They were all WX3506s. Apparently there was a WX4507 as well. I don't know. I've heard of that. Anyway, well, we had to get that box. Oddly, they were all in one box, too. So we put a good bid on it. We won it. And so we got this nice sample of these Matchbox tubes. Now you'll notice this one has gone gassy, and from discussions I've had with tube collectors and from evidence from the good sized sample that my friend and I had, well, yeah, they went gassy. I think only 2 of the tubes that we originally bought still had a good getter and a good vacuum. And my theory is pretty much they were not constructed well. It was kind of a bad idea. So let's take a look at this. You can see it's, let's get that out of there too. It's kind of like a glass PopTart. And you can kind of see the idea here in that there's no real fancy glass blowing equipment needed. You have basically plate glass that you heat up and stamp out. And pretty cool that they actually put the Westinghouse logo there. There we go. Stamp out 2 identical pieces. You can see they really are kind of mirror images of themselves. And stick the tube in. And the tube, by the way, is, I understand, more or less a 6AG5. There is actually a data sheet on the web for these. It's a preliminary data sheet, but it's a data sheet nonetheless. 6AG5, of course, is a very common tube of the late 40s and early 50s. And, oh, cripes, they were very common in early television sets, early post-war television sets. So, yeah, 6AG5. You essentially build a 6AG5. Of course, you got to lead it out a little differently. And you stick it in between the 2 plates of glass and seal it. And from the looks of it, from this somewhat trained eye, it sort of looks like they tried to use sort of a frit seal. Now, frit is basically powdered glass, very finely powdered glass. And it looks to me like they put a layer of the powdered glass in between the 2 sandwich pieces here of the main glass, obviously sticking the tube inside as well, and then pressed it with heat to melt the frit and seal everything up. And maybe that didn't work too well. Frit seals are used on CRTs and such like that, but generally are not used when electrodes are concerned. So that may have been the fatal flaw of these, and why they seem to all be going gassy or have gone gassy. And it's just not just me. Some of the other collectors that have these tubes actually, yeah, theirs have gone gassy as well. So, yeah, interesting idea, but yeah, I don't think it was going to work. Now, you'll see it has a number there. I think that's 202, handwritten. Other pictures I've seen of these, yeah, they all have 3-digit numbers, which would kind of correspond with what I heard about there being only about 500 of these things produced. And that makes sense for an engineering sample run. Stick a bunch of these things out in the wild and see what guys can do with them. And in fact, one of the tubes that we did get, and they were all in boxes, and some of the boxes actually did even say 3506, because, cheap cardboard. The flaps always break off of these. Anyway, some of the boxes actually did say 3506, WX3506. One of them actually had short leads and had been soldered into something. So someone was fooling around with it, but didn't work. Yeah, I think these things were kind of doomed from the get-go. Simply, well, the kind of iffy technology there with the crummy seals. But also, honestly, sub-minis came into being, and they were a whole lot more rugged, a whole lot more small, or they were much smaller, obviously, because, you know, this is, for a 6AG5 type tube, this is not entirely small. It's usually bigger than a 6AG5, I think. 6AG5, of course, being a little 7-pin miniature. I should have brought one here to compare with, but yeah, it's, you know, sub-minis, of course, were more expensive, but yeah, they were incredibly rugged, reliable tubes. I don't think this thing actually had a chance. So, kind of a dead end. Yeah, obviously one of the advantages of this would be no socket required, but then again, well, sub-minis don't need sockets either, the long lead ones. Sub-minis came out with sockets initially, but they found out that the sockets were more unreliable than the actual tube, so hey, ditch the socket. So, yeah, it's unfortunate this one's gone gassy like so many. Someone did suggest perhaps putting it in a vacuum chamber and seeing if, well, it could revive the tube. Unfortunately, that really never works. You know, this one, where the exhaust tip is, you can see it right there. That looks like it's broken off during the years, which, you know, of course, doesn't help the gas problem or the sealing problem. But the other ones that we had did indeed have good exhaust tips. Yeah, sticking one of these into a vacuum chamber doesn't really work. Once it's gone, once a tube is leaky, it's pretty much it's dead, and you have to go through an intense amount of trouble to rebuild a tube, which does happen. You know, people do rebuild, not many people anymore, but people do rebuild some of the big power tubes in the 5 kW class and bigger. Yeah, and also think about it. If the vacuum chamber trick did work, all those guys, the audio guys with their $3,000 Western Electric 300Bs, you know, the ones that are starting or have gone gassy, oh, they'd be trying like crazy to get that gas out. Yeah, it's been tried, doesn't work. Yeah, maybe at some point someone will figure it out, but at this point it just doesn't seem to be working. So anyway, that's what this is. It is, well, a gassy Westinghouse WX3506 Reliatron Matchbox tube. Yes, Reliatron, that was the name. That was kind of the brand name. An interesting dead end in tube technology, and just a curio at this point. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed the video, and well, you know, as I tweet things out, if you want to see a video on something I tweet out, leave a suggestion or prod me or send a message or something. And, well, I'll see if I can get it out. Of course, I am incredibly busy, but you knew that. I'll see if I can do that. This is just a real quick one because I realized I haven't done a video in a while. And I thought, hey, you know what? This Matchbox tube generated an awful lot of interest on Twitter. Why not make a video and show it a little better? You can get all the angles. All right, hope you liked the video. Hey, leave a comment if you know anything more about these Matchbox tubes. Why not give a shout? Okay, thanks for watching. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye. All right, we're going to make a nice, there we go, thumbnail shot. All right, guys, see you later. Bye-bye.